Welcome to the Make a Baby podcast. I'm Carolina Sotomayor, your podcast host and expert Reiki womb healer. Over the past 6 years, I've had the honor of helping over 75 babies come into the world through the power of Reiki. I believe that healing is not meant to be done alone, nor should it be. On this podcast, you'll hear amazing Reiki guided meditations, empowering healing tips, and taboo topics with a focus on inclusivity and representation. Are you ready for these conversations? I am. Let's get started. Welcome back, friends. This is the Make a Baby podcast, and I'm Carolina Sotomayor, your podcast host. And today we're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart because, again, we can't talk enough about postpartum. Postpartum is something that if you're having a child and you're menstruating and you give birth, you need to care about because postpartum looks different for every person. But the postpartum care across the world is not the same. And here in the United States, we need to have these conversations because women are deserving of better care. And today we are talking to my friend,
Christiane Panesar.
So today, and I'm super passionate about postpartum because it is actually the reason why I started my practice. Most people don't know that is I was deep in my postpartum and I got certified in my postpartum to help me heal so that I had the ability, because Reiki was so restorative and critical in my postpartum recovery. I got attuned to Reiki. And then when I first launched my business, I was a mobile Reiki business for postpartum moms. And my first business was Omaha Postpartum Reiki. I would take my table and I would go to women's houses so they wouldn't have to leave their houses, especially if they were quite like home from the hospital. They wouldn't have to leave their babies. And then eventually I ended up in a chiropractor's office. So postpartum, I'm super passionate about. But today we're talking about when to ask for help in postpartum, and you are the expert. But before we dive in, my favorite question to ask every guest is, where are you in the world?
I'm in Alberta, Canada.
I love Canadians, and you're my favorite. So can you give us a little bit of who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into when to ask for help in postpartum?
So I specialize in helping moms conquer fatigue while mending babies' colic and eczema so that they can ditch the postnatal depletion and become the mother, the business owner, and the lover they know to be. And I created Postnatal Depletion recovery to support mothers who have been putting themselves last for far too long and on the back burner for far too long so that they can make the shift from zombie to goddess in weeks and not years or even decades.
I always had 3 identities: mom, business owner, and lover. So I think that that's really important. I think also what I discovered later in postpartum is that I lost part of my identity as a person that I only took on as the mom identity. And then that was like my personality instead of like I was a horse owner and I had hobbies and I have a fun personality and I'm quirky. It took a while for that to reemerge. So I love that. To me, that's like a whole approach.
Yeah, totally. And it's so important.
So when should moms ask for help in postpartum? When is the best time? Or I think that I can gauge from just working with so many women is when is the best time? Because nobody wants to be an inconvenience. And I think that that is a tricky question because I know the answer, but I want you to answer it is like, when is the best time to ask for help? Or when should they?
Yeah, so the short answer to this question is right away. And even before postpartum, because the best scenario is when moms do it before, because it's so much harder to ask for help when you're in the midst of it, when you're in the thick of it. And even if you think you don't need help, even if you think you don't need help, it's better to set yourself up for being supported and then maybe not needing the help after, which would be totally fine too, of course. But usually that's the best thing to do, to just factor in. There'll be hiccups, there'll be some difficulties. The longer and more detailed answer to this would be if you feel things like you're feeling totally overwhelmed, even if you think you shouldn't feel like this, but you feel overwhelmed. When you don't get enough sleep, you get severely interrupted sleep, when you don't get enough time for yourself anymore, for self-care, or you don't even know anymore how to take care of yourself. when you're struggling with things like breastfeeding, when you're struggling with getting appropriate nourishment for yourself or baby, when you're struggling with the baby maybe showing symptoms of not sleeping well, like crying for hours every night, having so-called colic or showing eczema or things like that, ask for help. When your relationship is suffering, ask for help. When your ability to thrive at work is suffering. And the list can go on, but I think moms get the point here. But the most important thing to say here really is that if you ask for help as a mother, it doesn't mean you failed as a mother. Because so many moms think that, including myself when I was there. I totally thought at the time there must be something wrong with me because I had a tough time in postpartum without any family support. And it was a big deal for me to express to friends that I was struggling. So the thing is, I find moms think they should do alone because there is so little support for moms in postpartum out there. So because there is no support, we think we should do this alone. And moms getting the "you're good to go" from the doctor at just 6 weeks after birth. So that's why they think they should be good to go. They should be all recovered. Most moms are being sent home with "oh, it's normal what you're feeling. It's normal your baby crying like this. It's normal your baby having eczema and colic and all these things. There's nothing you
it
can
just
do
means they have
about
good
it."
lungs. I was told that.
Yeah.
He just has
Exactly.
really good lungs. Really?
Oh, yeah,
I
and
think
just
also
labeling.
society does a
Hmm.
great job of reinforcing this idea that you have to bounce back and that you will bounce back to what you were before without
Exactly.
recognizing that you grew a human and you had a birthing experience, which are both very transformative experiences in each of their own. So for me, I always look at postpartum as we're restoring your energy, and then also so that you can have space to meet the new version of you, because there's no going back,
Mm.
there's only going forward. You have a new human that came out of you, and we're also going to go ahead and have this new family dynamic. Your partnership, if you're in a relationship, is going to shift no matter what. Or if you
Yeah.
have already existing children, the dynamic of that and how much time and how you're going to live life now is permanently different. So I think allowing yourself to have postpartum to unfold and meet the new version of yourself and get to know yourself now, because your life, you've been many versions of yourself, but now in postpartum it's time to meet this new version of you. And I think that that's the truth for I found in my postpartum, is that people are like, well, when are you going to get back to normal? Well, what
Yeah.
would really didn't happen is people didn't know the traumatic birth experience I had, and I was never going to go back to the person I was. So
Yeah,
I think
and you
it's
can't because you've
I
grown, right?
can't.
How could you go back?
How can I
Why would
forget
you
what
want to
happened
go
to me?
back? Yeah.
Right. And it's so recent. I think that society, through movies and like conversations and misconceptions, like that's been, especially in American culture, that it's been just so widespread that you're supposed to bounce back and you're supposed to lose weight quickly and you're supposed to be back to the way you were. Whereas that couldn't be further away from the truth of like, no, we're not going back, we're going forward.
Yeah. Do you know this saying? How does it go? Moms are expected to work as if they don't have children and to
Oh my
mother as
God,
if they don't
yes.
have
That's
a
why I quit
job.
corporate. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're just supposed to do everything like before, just with baby now.
Yeah, I know. When they're really small, you can do a lot, but like people are like, "Did you enjoy your your maternity leave?" No, John, I did not. I had a C-section and I was learning to breastfeed and I had a medical grade pump. I was learning to like exercise this boob so a slacker boob would produce as much as my bigger boob. So, no, John, my maternity leave was a lot of work. And
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. So this is my soapbox. So maternity leave and postpartum recovery in corporate America is not what it should be at all.
Not at all.
Sorry, did I startle
Don't even
you?
get me started on this. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in
Yeah.
the same boat. But like, so for
Of
me, when
course. Yeah.
asking for help, I was careful in postpartum who I asked help to, though. I was very careful. I worked in a male dominated industry. I used to work in pharmaceutical manufacturing. I was in some cases only one or two women in the department at a time. And then I moved jobs during my postpartum too. I mostly asked help. I had a postpartum doula, and I had one really good friend. She didn't live near me, but she also was postpartum, but she was postpartum with her second kid. And she was further along with me. She was like, her kid was 7 months old, and she had a 4-year-old. So she had done doing that, and she wasn't working. So she had a lot of time for me and asked for help. You need to have more than one source to go and ask for help from. In asking for me, I asked her all my mom questions, all my breastfeeding questions, all my, why is this so hard? Why do I feel like I'm climbing Mount Everest? And then I would ask my husband, I was like, I basically couldn't do a lot of things because of my C-section recovery, but he took on a lot of the things in our marriage, and it actually was better because I didn't realize I was doing too much in our marriage. I was doing so much that I was enabling. So now our marriage, 6 years postpartum, is very different.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Okay, so you mentioned something that's really important. What is postnatal depletion? What is that? Because in all the postpartum circles I've been in, and I know a lot of postpartum doulas and things, and even gone to conferences, no one's ever used this word or this words or this phrase.
Yeah, this was so important for me to discover that this exists, because all I knew before was the term postpartum depression. And when my midwife came by and uttered those words, it actually really helped me. Not that I was 100% going there already, but it was just this wake up of, oh my God, there's actually an explanation for why I'm feeling like this. This is not just in my head. There's actually something going on. But what I found out, what it actually really was, it was postnatal depletion. And it's a syndrome that affects 1 out of 2 mothers, actually. And it's not just new mothers,
but all
pause.
Hold
mothers.
That thought. Wait, back
Can you imagine?
Up first.
Yeah.
Did you say 1 in 2 women?
2.
Exactly. Is that globally? Is that a global statistic?
Globally. And
shut up.
It could be all ends of the spectrum, right? It could be like severe postpartum depression.
I bet you that's what I had.
Feeling a little bit. I bet
you that's what I had. Shut up. 1 in 2 women. So 50% of women that have babies or are postpartum suffered from this.
Experts estimate at least 1 out of 2 mothers, at least. And it comes from the depletion.
Goosebumps. My hands, my hair is standing up.
And it comes from the depletion due to pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum and breastfeeding. And so many women are already depleted as they enter pregnancy, right? So then it just compounds and compounds. Exactly.
They're not eating the right foods. Yeah. They're not nourished.
Yeah, they're already maxed out. And then on top of their maxed out life, they're having a baby now, right? And when a mother makes her baby, of course, it's all from their own resources. And nature's very smart. The placenta first makes sure that the baby is taken care of. And every mother would want that. But still, it comes at the cost of the mother of being left depleted if she doesn't fill her cup enough. So
this explains so much. That might be actually why I suffered deep. I had a lot of health issues that started only in postpartum that I never had before.
And that's one of the symptoms for it, actually. That's one of the symptoms, actually, to have health issues come up during pregnancy or postpartum that have never been there before or are being aggravated. That's one of the symptoms, actually. Yeah.
I'm going to have to send this episode to one of my favorite clients I've ever had. Shout out to, I won't say her full name, C in Wisconsin. She had a Reiki baby, and we had done a couple of sessions together. Shortly after she was postpartum, baby was not even a month old yet, and she ended up getting like paralyzation, and she couldn't move, and she ended up getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the long run. But like, she had not had any issues or any signs prior to that. So now she has full-blown MS that only came up during postpartum. Luckily, she can walk now, and she's, I think, on the road to remission with her doctor's help. But there's so many cases about this. This is life-changing for me. I have, keep going. I'm like, but no, like, I know so many women that the postpartum, the things come up that we didn't. We've never had this conversation on the podcast. I'm flipping excited.
Yeah. And it's not just on a nutritional level. Like people always think, oh, it's just diet. And that's like a huge part of
Huge
it.
part.
And the problem here is just the possible moment is that moms are just being recommended standard diet and exercise recommendations. Like, first of all, like the standard diet and exercise recommendations, they are set according to men. Like all our research is according to men. It's just like a new thing in the last few years that we're actually starting to even look at women and have like female test objects in medicine and all of that. And then a woman is so different when she's a mother, right? You can't just even do the same things you did before you became a mother. Like your physiology, your brain chemistry, your hormones, your nervous system, everything has changed. And it's actually an upgrade. It's not a deficit that we always think, oh, because we can't go back, like that's a deficit, now we're less. But it's actually an upgrade. It's also scientifically researched. It's really interesting, actually. But anyways, where was I? So it's not just nutrition, but it's like several levels, and people forget like all these other levels of, like, for example, underlying traumas. Like so often traumas come up as we become a mother, or new traumas happen, like birth traumas of not being supported, being able to breastfeed, like all these things. So all that gets compounded. So we have to help women work through this and integrate all of this rather than just normalizing it. We'll just push through. It's just normal. You're tired now, because that just makes us feel like we're crazy. But it's a real
I hate
syndrome.
That word.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
I think instantly, this is going to sound bad. I think anyone who says, oh, you're being crazy is an asshole. Like I can't, they're like, that's in your head. No, I pushed a baby out of me, or I had a baby taken out of me and I grew them. Nothing that I'm going through is crazy. Like, stop invalidating women. So we were talking about a lot of things, but what are some like 3 signs that you need to ask for help? You were talking about some of them, but what are, like, for as a woman that is like a working mom, if this is happening in your life, that you immediately need to stop and ask for help from a person that you trust?
Yeah. So there are a few signs actually, which are so symptoms of postnatal depletion. So for example, severe fatigue. So let's say in the past 2 weeks, you would rate your fatigue at a 6 to 10, and 10 being zombie-like. If you're tired, even if you had a good night's sleep, if you have brain fog, aka baby brain, this hypervigilance, which is usually
so baby
coupled
brain
with
is not normal.
No, like
Okay.
it's common, but it's not normal. This being
I
forgetful,
think
you
that's
can't
so
think.
important. So baby brain is brain fog and it is common, but it's not normal body function.
Very interesting fact is that a mother's brain actually shrinks like about 5 to 8%. They've measured this in each pregnancy. So you're literally, like, baby literally siphons nutrients off your brain, like takes it off your brain for their own. So no wonder, right? Like, why baby brain? And we can rebuild that. We can take care of the nervous system. So it doesn't have to be like this for the rest of our lives. So that's one sign. Another one would be hypervigilance, which is usually coupled with unease or anxiety. If we just can't relax anymore, we're constantly on alert. You can't even sleep anymore, even if you could sleep, even if you had time and baby is sleeping. A sense of guilt or shame around the role of being a mother. Like you feel like you're doing everything wrong. Feel guilty for taking time for yourself. That's definitely a sign you should ask for help. Loss of self-esteem. Like you went from capable, confident, and ambitious to feeling anxious, unmotivated, and you don't want to leave the house anymore after you became a mother. It's very common. Feeling overwhelmed, feel like you can't cope anymore. You're either losing it at your family regularly, or you're just tuning out as a protective mechanism because it's too much. What he talked about, aches and pains, digestive issues, health conditions that have worsened since you had baby. That's a sign. And then also loss of libido. That's also a sign as well, if your hormones are just sabotaging your date nights. And last one, if it has been already 1, 3, or 5 years after birth and you're still feeling like you never really recovered, you're still depleted. So it's not normal. You don't have to suffer like this.
So if we have those and we ask for help, what are some examples of people they can ask for help from that you would suggest?
Like the kind of people you mean, or the kind of things?
Yes, that, like, is it our doctors? Is it a friend? So if we have these things, because everyone's situation looks differently. Sometimes we have single moms, sometimes we have spouses that are working away, maybe truck drivers that are on the road a lot, or, traveling. If that's the case, what do you recommend? Like, who should we be talking to?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you have. I mean, if you have family support, that would be the best. But if, let's say, your family is just stressing you out, like your mother-in-law, and it's actually every time they come, you just feel judged and anxious, then that might not be the best support, you know. If you have neighbors and friends, that would be amazing. Like, ask them. Your people usually love to help, and they might need some help how to help you. They might not know.
I think
Like,
that's
I
really
didn't know
great. So
before I
they
had a
might need some
baby.
help helping you. Can you talk more
Yeah.
about that?
Like, for example, I just had to remember last night how I even got offered some help with my first baby, but I just could not accept it. And the thing was, like, my best friend at the time, when she had her baby before me, I had a miscarriage. We were supposed to have babies at the same time. I
I'm so
miscarried. She
sorry.
had her baby. And I really wanted to help, but I didn't know how. And she just kind of cut off from everybody and didn't want to see anyone, and just thought, I have to figure this out on my own first. Then I'll invite you in when whatever I'm presentable, baby's presentable. And I was so, like, I just didn't know how to help her. And I didn't know I could have just put some food in front of her door, or, like, it just didn't dawn on me. I was just like, okay, she said no, so I'll just respect that. And I was kind of sad about it, but I just didn't know. And then in turn, when she came to help me, she stayed over the first night after when we brought home baby, and she stayed there to help me. And then at night, when baby woke up, like, screaming at the top of her lungs, and I was just totally panicked and didn't know what was going on, first time mother. And I did not ask her for help. I just didn't want to wake her up. I was like, oh my God, I can't just seem like I don't know how to take care of my own baby. And I pretended, no, I'm fine. Everything was fine. Thanks for staying over. And it was because I didn't know how to help her. She didn't let me help. Then in turn, I couldn't even accept her help. So it's such a vicious circle of pain in our society. So once I knew, for example, I was asking one of my friends, once I got over myself and realized I need help. Otherwise, I won't be the mother I want to be. I won't be the lover I want to be anymore. Like, it wasn't for my own sake, but what helped me to ask was for my family, for my baby. And I asked a friend, could you organize a meal train for me? And she's like, yeah, for sure. I didn't know you needed help. Like, it was no problem. They were so thrilled they could help us. But before, it didn't even dawn on me I would need some help with food, that I would be hungry every 2 hours from breastfeeding and faint if I wouldn't eat, and just couldn't handle making food. I was in such a different space. So
I couldn't handle opening the mail.
yeah, I believe
I
it.
couldn't, like, literally, we got a notice. I say this all the time. We got a notice for our rent that it was overdue. And we are, like, super responsible people. We have never been late. And Ryan's like, did you do the bills? And I was like, no, I haven't moved from this couch.
Yeah.
And I was just concentrating on, because we had a difficult time breastfeeding, and it was the last thing I was hell bent on, like, making work when my birth didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
So I was just focusing on keeping this child alive and breastfeeding and learning how to pump, getting him to latch. And I was not functioning the same way. So literally, I was a shell of the person I was before. So it's really important to remember, like, in postpartum too, that, you're going to may not be able to do the simplest of things, that, or maybe also a sign is that you forget to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You forget
Totally.
to eat. I was also the thirstiest I had ever been in my life when I was breastfeeding.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that we're not functioning. It's just, it's different, right? We're, like, doing
It's
something
different.
so much more important, but the brain is totally different. Yeah,
My
and we
brain
need.
was
Mhm.
totally overloaded with, like, just the simplest things were really hard for me. My
Yeah.
postpartum was really severe, and that's just my journey. It took all of me just to take care of the baby. We had to hire a housekeeper. There was a business called Mommy's Helper. And this is way back before Instacart. This is before groceries were delivered. Like, she would run my errands for me. She would go to Walmart or Target. She would fold the laundry. She would make sandwiches. And then she would come opposite days of the postpartum doula. And that went on for a few months just because I needed help.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, so many doctors, like if you have a good doctor, that's great, but most doctors are not trained in postnatal depletion. They don't even know what that is. It's just slowly becoming a thing in the medical world. Like there are some very specialized doctors for
So
this, and
how
there's
does,
literature
if they
out
have a
there,
lot
but
of these symptoms, how do they go about getting the diagnosis, or what does treatment look like for postnatal depletion?
yeah, there's a postnatal depletion test I created, which people can find in my free support group, my Facebook group. So people can go in it. And it's not
We'll
as
link it
simple
in the
because,
notes.
exactly, because it's not a disease, it's a syndrome, right? So it's
Mm,
harder to pinpoint. But with this kind of a test, you can get a sense. Of course, it's not a diagnosis, but you can get a sense, okay, do you need some help here or not? So, and what I do with my moms, I actually look at this on 7 different levels, from nutrition to movement flow that's suitable for moms, not just normal exercise, to looking at traumas, nervous system, sleep, underlying microorganisms that might be root causes to problems, and then including taking care of the baby. Because how could a mother be well if the baby is crying and not sleeping? And there's so much we can do
right.
to help the baby. Like one of our things was that baby had colic and was crying till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just couldn't settle there as this is normal, there's nothing I can do. And I'm glad I didn't settle, and I'm glad I didn't give up, and I found a solution. And she was a totally different child, and we were totally different people after we got some sleep, and I could actually start taking care of my postnatal depletion recovery. But it needs a specialized approach, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there isn't much out there, unfortunately. Like even with my doula and my midwife, I still, nobody prepared me for this, nobody helped me with this. That's incredible. So that's why I saw just there's like a real need for women to hear that this is a thing, and you don't have to just silently suffer in this, and there's help.
No, we're breaking the silence is the whole reason why I started the podcast, because the conversations, not just in spirituality, but like just the conversations in general, were not happening that I saw
Yeah.
enough of in the way that we're doing it, which is inclusivity and talking to a full array of experts. And I am so grateful you've come here. So tell us how we can work with you and find you on the internet.
Yeah, so Facebook group is called, like, Facebook group's Postnatal Depletion. And it's a free support group that I created for moms, especially because of this, because it's not just important to reach out for help, but to surround yourself with the right help, the right,
Right.
like the people you vibe with, women that get it, and resources that are tailored for you and not just standard. Okay, whatever, here's some sleeping pills or anxiety pills for you and some reflex meds for baby. Like, okay, good luck. This group, moms can join for free. And also I offer an hour session for moms to just see what's going on, like what symptoms of postnatal depletion they've reached, which symptoms their babies is experiencing, and how we can make a game plan to nip postnatal depletion in the bud and get your energy back. It's on my website, heartfood.com. And I'm also on Instagram. It's heartfood holistic, the handle. And yeah, I just want to say that, like, please reach out. Don't be shy to reach out for help. It can be scary. Like, I know I went through this, but I love this quote: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. It's really like that. And I know this mom shame and guilt prevents us from admitting we need help, but it's the best thing I could have done at that time, and it changed my life and my family's life. So no, you're not alone. And also, I think what moms always have to hear is, like, when you thrive, your family thrives too. It's not that you're
Absolutely.
taking away from your family if you take care of yourself. The mom is like the backbone of the family. And if mothers are well, then families are well, societies, communities are well, and society is hopefully much better after that.
I believe that 100%. My husband would agree with you. He dotes on me, and I absolutely love it because we're all happier when you're thriving. So
Right.
it's like, what is it like when I'm not thriving? It's still great, right? Still good, right? So I'm super grateful for you and to have you here. And for anyone that's listening, just know that you're not alone. And if you're scared to speak up, send us a DM. We'll find something. She has resources, I have resources. And that way we can make sure you're not feeling alone. Until next time, make sure you let the Reiki flow. Feeling hopeless in your fertility journey, fearful that you'll never become pregnant? The Make a Baby membership was created just for you, using the exact methods of Reiki that helped me conceive my son. We've helped over 75 babies come into this world by removing blockages from the womb and body with our powerful Reiki techniques. Visit carolinasotomayor.com to join the Make a Baby membership today.